Hello and welcome to another episode of What's on the Pile. I'm Nathan Besner, and joining me is Shane Lee,
Hey, how's it going?
Matt Wagner,
Coming to you from the year not 199.
and Jenner.
Oh, if only.
We continue our October horror film extravaganza with the works of master filmmaker John Carpenter. In the second half, we'll be discussing his religion as science apocalyptic cosmic horror film, Prince of Darkness. But now, let's talk about John Carpenter, acknowledged master throughout the world and notorious lover of residuals. He made his first feature, Dark Star, with Alien co-creator Dan O'Bannon. He may be known most famously for Halloween, but ask any movie lover, out of the 22 different works he's directed that aren't shorts, when asked which is their favorite, they may all name something completely different. The truest genre filmmaker, Carpenter has made films of all sorts, from sci-fi to straight drama. So why don't we go ahead and name our favorite John Carpenter film, and let's start with Jenner this time.
That would be The Thing. Absolute disaster upon its original release, not least because, like Blade Runner, it opened 2 weeks after E.T., which was, a movie that was kind of big in 1982 and not really so much since then. But absolutely one of those works that, the more I see it, the more I adore it. It is a damn near perfect film.
That famously was the reaction that John Carpenter had to that kind of changed his outlook on filmmaking forever.
Oh, yeah, and amongst other things, it also lost him the job of Firestarter, which, having seen Firestarter, may have actually been a blessing in disguise.
Have you seen the new one?
The new one has a very nice score by John Carpenter.
Yeah, I watched a couple of weeks ago. That wasn't good.
That was not great.
The book wasn't good. I don't know what you could do with that book.
It was a very nice performance by Zac Efron, but that's
that was surprising.
About the extent of it. I mean, he's actually a pretty good actor. He just doesn't necessarily have the best taste in projects, but he always seems to be game.
I like Zac Efron. I don't remember why. I think it was because of the 17 again.
I would either that or The Greatest Showman. Which
he was fun in
a great favorite around.
He was fun in Neighbors with Seth Rogen.
Yeah, I think it was 17 again. I think that's the one I loved. And a body swap movie we didn't talk about.
Completely forgot to talk about that one. Well, it's a little obscure at this point, but yeah, no, The Thing is an absolute freaking masterpiece. One of the greatest science fiction and one of the greatest horror movies ever made.
I would agree with that. I'm not going to name that as my favorite. Let's have Shane go next.
It's The Thing. I mean,
oh, you basic bitch.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
When you were saying like everyone's going to say something different, I figured there's going to be a lot of The Thing out there. I didn't even see it till like 5 years ago, and like a lot of older like scary movies don't always hold up. Like even like Halloween, which I understand and appreciate, isn't really scary. The Thing is still like riveting. It's
freaking terrifying.
Yeah, and it's still, and the practical effects are still great, and they're still gross and horrifying. I watched it during one of my October marathons and was just riveted the entire time.
Yeah. I have a suspicion that a more interesting take on this conversation might actually be what's everybody's second favorite Carpenter movie, but we'll get. I imagine we'll circle back to that.
Has everybody seen the pseudo sequel?
It's a prequel, right?
No,
it's a prequel.
It ends with the first scene of the Thing.
That's right.
I haven't seen it. I've been wanting to see it. I've been told it's not really worth it.
I actually quite like it.
It's not like at that level, but
I really wish they would release the practical version that they ended up CGing all over. That's gonna be one of those grails for a while, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, how about you, Wagner?
I will not say The Thing, and that's not to cast any shade on The Thing. I do love it, although I did have it in a movie night once, and it bored the audience. I have yet to figure that out.
Your audiences were weird, man.
My audiences were weird, but yeah, that was.
I mean, I can vouch, but yeah,
I wasn't. It wasn't the time they almost lynched me. That was the item. But they were
didn't they almost riot for Suck as well?
No, they didn't like it. I actually like that movie.
I like that.
That's me.
But leave that aside. Yeah.
The movie I am picking is Big Trouble in Little China.
Woo!
Which,
yeah.
I mean, it takes someone of Carpenter's experience to make something that is its own satire, kind of. It kind of lives in its own little world, if not for Also They Live. It's like They Live is this slightly less frenetic and gleeful version of Big Trouble in Little China, and I still quote lines from Big Trouble in Little China, mostly Black Blood of the Earth.
Also very fond of "Son of a bitch must pay."
Yeah, that's a good one.
But it's a great little movie that has so many little pieces moving around in it that, you know, you just forget about the giant orangutan sometimes. Or the guy who decides to explode himself when his boss dies.
or the fact that Kurt Russell is not actually the hero of the film.
Nobody ever forgets that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody ever forgets that, actually. That is the one thing that sticks out in everyone's mind. But I, for the longest time, forgot the whole reflex thing with the bottle that pays back in the last moments of the film when he catches and rethrows the knife.
That's my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
That makes me laugh every time because everybody took a shot at him at Lopan and nobody hit, and then this dumb trucker.
The reflexes.
That guy blowing up. So that was a horror movie to me as a kid because I would watch it up to the part where he's about to blow up, and I would stop watching. I'm like, I don't want to see what happens
next.
It's another one of those movies that absolutely straddles that fine line of, in this case, it's like a queasy median between Eastern fantasy / martial arts, like a wuxia movie, comedy and horror. There is lots of horrific stuff in that movie. I will freely allow, with the first time that I saw that, which was like right after it hit rental VHS, I had no idea what the hell to make of that. And I think that actually ends up as a keynote for a lot of Carpenter's movies in general.
I came into that one a couple of times midway through before I actually got a chance to see it, front to back. Watching it on TV, it pops up, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell is going on, but this is really interesting. I'm sure there's a brilliant backstory of why this trucker is fighting all these Chinese guys. Oh, no, there isn't. Okay.
I can't recall the first time I saw Big Trouble in Little China. It's like ingrained into me at this point. Like it's part of me. It's part of my story. So that's kind of like I don't remember when I first saw Star Wars. It's just part of the culture so much that film movie people love Big Trouble in Little China. It bombed.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It bombed hard. And which sucks because it is one of the most interesting genre films ever made because it has so many specific genre defining aspects to it. It's really interesting. I've always loved it, and the color palette is phenomenal.
That's the thing that I think we find is that Carpenter's movies took a while for people to get. Almost all of them. A few of them were instant hits. A few of them were instant smashes. Some of the ones that were most financially successful at the time have faded a little bit in memory, like Starman and that sort of thing. But the ones that really stuck around, with the exception of the obvious one, are ones that took a lot of people a lot of time to come around on. I mean, I consider the case of They Live, for pity's sake. That was, seriously downrated, ignored, dismissed at the time that it was released, and it becomes more topical the stranger things get in the world at large. To say nothing of Roddy Piper in a role for the ages.
And I had also sort of been reminded of Big Trouble in Little China because I finally got around to seeing Everything Everywhere All at Once. James Hong is in there, so.
Yep.
And that was
why do I know him? Why do I keep expecting him to do something villainous?
Not only James Hong, but Jamie Lee Curtis. There was definitely some Carpenter love built into the casting of that picture.
Yes, but I recognize Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm like, I know James Hong. Why do I know this guy? Where do I know him from? So, anyway.
Well,
what's your favorite, Nate?
Yeah, mine is Escape from New York.
Oh.
Okay.
It's the first Carpenter I ever saw. But it was also it's like a key point to so many different things I love in our culture, so many different types of media and whatnot. In that James Cameron worked on that film, worked on the 3D special effects model that they made, which was for the computer version. The other version was like neon tape put down, but when they do the computer simulation, that was all James Cameron coming up with all sorts of crazy special effects, and that's what got him onto some other genre pictures, and then he did Terminator, and the
Yeah,
rest is
well,
history.
I mean, I've long held that a lot of the science fiction horror between Alien and Aliens, or indeed going back before that, almost constitutes a conspiracy. I mean, good lord, Dan O'Bannon, John Carpenter, James Cameron, not just working on Escape from New York and working for John Carpenter, but also working for Roger Corman, who was originally probably going to be the producer of Star Beast, later Alien. Galen Hurd was in there. Like I say, there's a certain distinctly internecine quality to all of that doesn't get documented very often.
It's definitely a generational thing. I also just love the movie. I love long treks. So like I don't know, a point A to point B.
It's a quest movie.
Yes, yes, exactly. And that's what I like about it. It fits right in with all the fantasy movies I love, except it has machine guns and Kurt Russell with an eye patch.
And Ernest Borgnine as the last wise-ass cabbie in New York.
And Donald Pleasance is the U.S. president.
I'm the president! I'm the president!
He plays brittle extremely well.
He really does.
So much so that when you actually get to Halloween 6 and he is literally dying on set, it makes me look back at his other acts with, like, was he feeling sick at this point? I can't tell.
Outside of Dr. Loomis and Halloween, most of Pleasance's roles for Carpenter, and there were a good few of them, were varying degrees of spineless and prickly, which we'll definitely circle back on a little bit in the second half. But
all right, well, let's ask your question, Jenner. What's everybody's second favorite?
Oh. Okay.
Mine's Big Trouble in Little China, so we've already covered that.
Mine is also Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, I mean, after I got past the exploding scene and saw that he did explode, but they didn't show him exploding. They showed it in the hallway. I was like, okay.
Pieces whenever.
Yeah. So that wasn't as bad as I was. I mean, also it was PG-13. I should have known. But yeah, that's a movie another one that's like Nate, where I can't remember when I first was exposed to it. It's just kind of always been around. And yeah, and I love the fantasy aspects of it. There, at least for me, there wasn't a lot of that out there at the time. I'm sure there was in.
That movie was almost unique of its age. Again, one of the reasons why it probably one of the reasons why it tanked.
Yeah.
My number 4 in any case.
Yeah. And especially Eastern fantasy. Not that I was specifically seeking that because I happen to be Asian myself, but it was just an interesting. It was something I wasn't familiar with, even having grown up, in an Asian household. It was something new that I was seeing. I pretty much grew up as a white American, essentially.
And of course, Kurt Russell doing one of the most glorious John Wayne impressions ever committed to screen. There's a better even than his Elvis.
Nate, don't you own the Big Trouble in Little China Legendary?
Yeah.
Card game? Didn't we play that and it sucked?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because there's a really terrific Alien one that we've played several times. We've never beaten it.
It's fun though. You actually feel like you're accomplishing things, whereas the Big Trouble in Little China, it's not fun to play.
There's a terrific The Thing Hidden Trader board game, which of course it's perfect for. It feels exactly like the movie, and it's a lot of fun. Nate, have you played that? Matt, it seems like you played it.
I played that with you.
You played it with
heard of it.
Yeah. Okay. It's great.
There's actually a really good 3D The Thing adventure game sequel that was released back in the early aughts as well that Carpenter kind of signed off on. Granted, Carpenter was not too picky about signing off on lots of ancillary media for his more popular properties, but The Thing produced a number of actually extremely good sort of ancillary properties. There was a comic book sequel back in either the late 90s or the early aughts that was actually pretty good as well, even if nobody has any idea whether it qualifies as canon. Canon is freaking ephemeral.
There's an interview with John Carpenter where he basically takes 5 minutes to say, I really like it when people say they love my movies and that I'm great. And I will sign off on their things because of that.
That's fair.
Fair. I mean, I'm sure the money doesn't hurt either.
I don't blame him at all.
I mean,
he takes great joy in being respected and loved for his craft, and he loved his craft.
He absolutely kind of fits sort of Truffaut's old maxim: "Is all I want from you is the joy of cinema." Carpenter, when he stopped enjoying cinema, stopped making it,
which is the right move, rather than drive it into the dirt, and we all can kind of see. Oh, he isn't having fun anymore.
Yeah. Now, granted, his couple of episodes of Masters of Horror back in the aughts were actually pretty interesting. Some of his TV work is, again, a little underappreciated and underdocumented. At the same time, and more recently, I can only imagine what his response was when there was an exchange on Twitter where somebody was saying that isn't it time to is it too early to anoint Jordan Peele as the greatest horror director ever?
Oh,
to which Peele's own response was, I will not tolerate you talking about John Carpenter like that. Or
John
something
Carpenter,
to that extent.
Yeah, he's talked about that in interviews and how much he loved Jordan Peele's response.
I'm sorry. There was somebody asked Paul McCartney what it was like to have been in the greatest band of all time, and he said, "This is strange. I must be getting older than I thought because I don't remember being in Genesis."
I actually agree with him on that one. But leaving that aside, or certainly in comparison to the Beatles. Anyway, now Carpenter is, not least, not just because of the degree to which he was influential on other filmmakers, but the sheer volume of things that he signed off on. I mean, all of the Halloween sequels, as well as various instances of executive producing, writing for other people's projects, even when he had no other capacity on the thing, like Black Moon. He executive produced Black Moon Rising, but that was just because he had a car script. New World Pictures wanted to make something for him. He's like, well, here, try this. They handed it off to another director, but he still got paid. He was happy. And he seems like absolutely the guy who, I mean, particularly on the heels of Christine, would have had more than one car script lying around.
Let's talk about some of the lesser talked about John Carpenter films a little bit.
One I've always wanted to see, I've never seen this, is Dark Star. That's one that's talked about.
Yeah,
Dark Star is great.
I would do Dark Star for an episode.
Dark Star feels a lot more like O'Bannon than Carpenter, to be honest. It has a slightly stoned, comedic vibe that was more characteristic of a lot of the stuff that O'Bannon did that wasn't Alien. That's a really nifty movie, and as a student film, it is absolutely jaw-droppingly astonishing. It's a very agreeable picture.
I think that movie's fun.
It's a ton of fun, and I like that O'Bannon was basically on record that he basically wrote Star Beast or Alien as a comic remake of one of the subplots in Dark Star. If you've never seen Dark Star, there is an alien that is basically a painted beach ball with a pair of Creature from the Black Lagoon hands. That is just kind of the mascot on the ship, but at one point it leads one of our characters into the tunnels. And, that was, the genesis of a lot of things going forward.
Yeah.
Has
Star Crystal.
Has everybody seen Assault on Precinct 13?
Hell yes.
I've seen the remake. I'm not sure if I've seen the original, actually. I've seen the Ethan Hawke one with with Ethan Hawke and Lawrence Fishburne, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
I actually liked the remake. I
The
love
remake
the
was-
original.
The remake was okay. The original was one of the seminal suspense movies of the 70s, not least for a gloriously deadpan comedic role by one Austin Stoker as, well, the guy everybody was trying to get to inside inside the jail. But again, showing Carpenter's own influence of kind of American or Americana cinema, because the whole thing was basically a remake of Rio Bravo.
Yeah.
What else haven't we talked about?
Well, I have never really, it's never really hit for me, and I can see all the craft and all the design and everything good going forward in it, but The Fog has always kind of bored me.
yeah,
I can understand.
I
thought it
can
was
see that.
boring
I
when
really
saw it.
like The Fog as a mood piece. I can see being left a little bit cold by that. And of course, one of the ones that we haven't really talked about, Halloween.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about Halloween. Everybody's done Halloween.
Oh, okay.
Everybody knows everything about Halloween. We only have so much time.
Okay.
It's my second favorite if we were going to get to that, so.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
My third.
I like Halloween 3 actually.
Halloween
Yeah,
3
he was
is,
only peripherally involved. I think he was the producer on that, right?
there's actually a funny story about Halloween 3 that I'm going to have to circle back on in the second half, because it is of material interest to our subject of the second half, which is my second favorite John Carpenter movie.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
mind telling you in advance.
Okay.
Wait, Nate, didn't you make an A and B to the song from Halloween 3 or something? The jingle from Halloween 3?
Yes.
You did. Was it an A and B or some sort of video project?
Halloween,
Halloween,
happy Halloween,
Silver
Shamrock.
Yes. Again, another one of those movies that has significantly grown in reputation as the years have gone on.
I don't know.
That movie's.
I mean,
I hate
honestly,
the end of that movie.
I saw it recently. I thought it was a blast.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
You know,
I didn't take it very seriously. I mean, I
No,
wasn't
Yeah, that's the
expecting
way
it
to
be
approach
scary or
it.
anything.
I mean, when it originally came out, nobody liked it because Michael Myers wasn't in it. In recent years, it's had this resurgent rediscovery. Everybody's, oh wow, actually, it's the best of the series.
Which it isn't
no,
either.
you went too
No.
far.
No.
Yeah, that is.
There are large portions of that movie that I find absolutely boring. Mostly in the first half when he's exploring the warehouses and
but it's
the
Tom.
factory.
Then it's Tom Atkins.
It
He's
is
one of
Tom
the-
Atkins.
He's
but-
one of those would watch him read the phone book guys.
and you very nearly do. So-
I've only
Granted, definitely shown off to better effect in Night of the Creeps.
I've actually only seen the original and 3. I haven't seen the sequels. I haven't seen the zombie ones. I haven't seen the David Gordon Green ones.
Wow.
I don't know.
Do-
I don't
do you
even know
want
where
me-
to start. Really, you know,
There's
there's so
a
many.
long discussion about how to deal with all of that.
I would tend to favor raw chronology and sort it out in your own brain afterwards.
That's the
Although
easiest
there
way to
is
do it.
a very interesting theory floating around about the David Gordon Green stuff, but we probably, that's its own, thing that we'll
Beast.
circle back on one of these days, I'm sure.
I do want to talk about that series of movies because I have a lot to say about that second movie.
Oh, really?
The second, second.
The new
wait,
ones.
Again,
Other than the one
ones.
that's in
The
what,
second
is it
new
in
one.
theaters now, or
Is
the
that
second
the one that's in theaters now? Halloween Ends.
No, that's the
Is it the
third.
third one?
That's the third. I have not
Okay.
seen Halloween Ends. I'm not sure
Okay.
I'm going to because of how much I disliked Halloween Kills.
See, I'm going to see it because of how much I dislike the second one. I got to see what they're doing next.
and like I said, I'm probably seeing Halloween Ends later tonight.
Oh, wow.
But there is an interesting theory that has pretty much a dead giveaway in the opening credits that I am looking forward to exploring. I figure I'll probably report back to the team, but it's a little bit out of the scope of this discussion.
Yeah, let's move on from Halloween because I really could talk about that all day.
A long time, yeah.
And he's got other movies that we have about 5 minutes left. And
In the Mouth of Madness.
well, yes, we all
Yes.
love that movie. It's
Yes.
an amazing film. It's if you haven't seen it, go see In the Mouth of Madness. We all recommend it.
One of the best Lovecraftian things, but Sam Neill and John Carpenter would probably have never been connected in the first place if not for Memoirs of an Invisible
Invisible
Man.
Man.
Yes. Which is the one I've been waiting to talk about.
The movie everybody forgets, that and Village of the Damned, which I actually thought was pretty underrated.
Village of the Damned was fine, but
it was fine.
To be honest, so was the original.
Yeah, it was not a great movie.
I like the original better. But you were saying about Memoirs of the Invisible Man.
I was going to say Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
No, I was talking to Nate.
Oh,
He said we have 5 minutes left and he wanted to talk about it.
No, that was a big movie for me when I was a kid. I went and saw that in the theater, and I became obsessed with how they did the special effects, which turns out is a very interesting story in and of itself, how all of the effects were done. But it kind of kicked off a lifelong love of effects work and the behind the scenes stuff that it drove me to strive for greater heights in my knowledge of film and construction of film.
Awesome.
because of the effects. The movie itself, I'm not so sure about. I have not seen it in 25 years.
Same here. Even Carpenter would freely acknowledge that was the movie that he did as a gun for hire because it had been 4 years since They Live failed to hit.
I do remember Memoirs of an Invisible Man. Fucking awesome score.
That's one of those odd instances that I don't remember, but I have been meaning to see it again. It's just I don't think it's been on video since the early DVD era.
Yeah.
It's out of print as far as I know. Granted, I haven't looked for it in a while, but weirdly bland performance by Chevy Chase trying to basically play a film noir hero. Typically bland performance by Daryl Hannah.
Yeah.
Freaking amazing performance by Sam Neill as the villain, which and the electricity between the back of the camera side and the front of the camera side, even now I remember, absolutely carried over into In the Mouth of Madness. So, minor things lead to major things, even if none of them were particularly appreciated at the time. I mean, weirdly enough, I recall Memoirs of an Invisible Man being kind of a minor hit, so it actually, finally, gave Carpenter a little bit more juice at the time, as opposed to all of the things that have just given him juice subsequently.
I saw that movie on an airplane when I was flying to France over the summer when I was a kid.
I saw it in second run in a theater that was subsequently a 3-screen theater that was subsequently converted into 3 different churches.
I've never seen that one. In the Mouth of Madness is actually one of the first horror movies I had the guts to go rent and watch.
Oh, really?
Because it was about a horror writer, and I'm like, well, okay, I can maybe handle that. I don't remember. So I have watched the movie. I remember really enjoying it, and I remember thinking, hey, I got through it. It didn't scare me that much. But that's about all I can remember.
Did it confuse you? Because that's a heck of an on-ramp.
No, I mean, I remember really liking Sam Neill's performance.
I
saw it was when it first came out on video, so
it's one of those. It's one of those weird instances that is. It feels strange to refer to it as one of the most fun Lovecraft riffs ever made. It is, in comparison to its 2 predecessors in Carpenter's quote-unquote Apocalypse trilogy, fairly light-touched by comparison. That movie is just a kind of a gleeful riff on Stephen King and H.P. Lovecraft at the same time.
That's probably what drew me to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, it always struck me as Lovecraft through King. Sorry.
It made there was an internet contest that had that was judging Stephen King adaptations to film, and In the Mouth of Madness won. I thought
which is interesting.
Behold the internet.
Yeah, that's kind of like when they voted Galaxy Quest above New Star Trek.
Not even Christine, which is John Carpenter's actual Stephen King adaptation.
Yeah.
And a pretty good movie in its own right.
I want to show that to Declan so much. He loves cars.
Oh, do you want him to stop loving cars? Oh, you should show him Maximum Overdrive then.
I think
there you go.
Oh no, but a truck gets blown up in that. That will make him cry.
Oh.
But not the people getting blown up or run over.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
He's seen cars get crushed, though. He's okay with
Okay.
that, but
I
seeing
thought this was maybe like, stop old Yeller 10 minutes before the end kind of situation.
Maybe,
Don't worry, the car
maybe.
lives.
I haven't seen Christine in a very long time.
The car does start pulling itself back together at the very end of the movie.
Mhm.
So I don't know. Do we have any thoughts on less wonderful Carpenter movies?
I hate Ghosts of Mars.
I like Ghost of Mars for one very particular reason, which is after having done multiple riffs previously on his fun. Actually, I should probably save this for the second half.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
okay, then save it.
I'll save it.
Where
Yeah, I already said my piece on The Fog.
Escape from LA is very underrated.
I like Escape.
I saw that in the theater, and I hadn't seen Escape from New York at the time. I wasn't confused, but I remember thinking like they're just going from place to place, or they're just going from like event to event. I don't know. I wasn't that crazy about it. I mean, I did go back and watch Escape from New York later and enjoyed that, but I just remember not liking Escape from LA. I remember being really excited to see it. It looked really fun, but I don't know, it just didn't work for me.
That's one of the movies with one of my votes for all time greatest. Good Lord, now what happens? Endings more so even than
the ending was cool. He just
welcome to the human race, asshole.
Yeah, I love that.
I actually really like that movie. I think it's really underrated.
I enjoy it.
Less popular opinion, The Ward is also underrated, although definitely minor.
I've not seen it.
I like it. It's very minor. It feels almost like a TV movie, but I actually enjoy it. I can see not doing so, though.
All right, well, I'm going to have to cut you off there, and we're going to go to break, so we will be right back. And we're back. Next up, we'll be discussing the religion as science apocalyptic cosmic horror film Prince of Darkness, starring Donald Pleasance as priest, Victor Wong as Professor Birak, Dennis Dunn, who I've never seen in anything other than Big Trouble in Little China, so it was really nice to see him. Lisa Blount as the lady lead who has sex with the dude lead, Jameson Parker as the dude lead, and Anne-Marie Howard as Susan, who? The radiologist. Alice
Is she the Asian-ish one?
What?
No, radiologist, glasses.
The one who gets possessed right away, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that it's a joke, nobody can remember her.
Yeah.
Radiologist, glasses.
Alice Cooper shows up in a fun way, but he isn't in the main cast, so whatever.
And of course, Donald Pleasance.
I already said Donald.
Oh, okay.
Very Pleasance.
I'm sorry.
Interrupter. Prince of Darkness tells the story of a group of, I think, grad school research scientists ranging from quantum physicists to radiologists. They've all been brought to a church by the priest, who had contacted his old friend Professor Birak, asked for his help with a confounding problem. There's a giant vat of green ooze in the basement, surrounded by weird texts and equations. That was protected by a sentinel until his recent death. The scientists begin collecting data, but the liquid starts shooting into their mouths and makes them into zombies who infect the other scientists. They're also sieged by homeless people who kill you on sight. As they begin deciphering more of the text, they discover through an exposition dump by Donald Pleasance that the ooze in the vat is part of something bigger, an extra-dimensional being they call anti-God, the goddamn devil. So this was on my pile.
I'm sorry.
Mine
I'm sorry.
too.
That's all we have time for tonight.
It's on my pile too. And judging by your reading of the plot, I mean, I don't know about you, but this movie confounded me. I didn't know what to expect. I was familiar with the VHS box. I was expecting. We did Warlock on this podcast, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was expecting like that kind of Prince of Darkness, like some magic guy running around killing people. I did not expect Satan in a jar.
No.
And scientists.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's my initial impression of the movie.
So
I rather liked this movie. I had a good time with it. Kind of. I don't know how to feel about this movie.
I liked a lot about the movie. I liked a lot of ideas. I found it a little boring at times.
Okay.
It's
And
most
confusing too.
It is a very slow burn. Amongst other things, I think for a while it actually held the record as the longest opening credit sequence from beginning of the movie to director's title ever.
Yeah.
That whole section confused the hell out of me. There was a lot of exposition not fully explained in there as the credits kept going, and a lot of characters. There's a Brotherhood of Sleep. Like I'm like, what?
Wagner is
Yep.
dying to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You go, Matt,
Okay,
and then I'll
so
go.
What you need to understand is that I saw this movie the absolute best possible way there is to see this movie. And that is about 8 times from the middle on Sunday morning while folding laundry. This thing came on TV all the damn time, and I never caught it from the beginning. So I always caught it from some point in the middle, and I'm like, okay, this time I'm going to figure... Nope, I'm not going to figure it out this time either. Because if you start 20 to 30 minutes in, you miss all of the exposition that sets up this stuff you're supposed to understand, and you're just on the roller coaster ride. I love this movie because of that experience. And then going back and seeing it soup to nuts all the way through, which I did in order to screen it for movie night, it was really illuminating the kind of material they put up front and the kind of concepts they're trying to bring to bear, because what they're trying to do is some of the aspects of, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle getting in there, and by definition telling you that there are things which you cannot know. The definition of the limit of possible knowledge and the limits that imposes on science, and using that as kind of a backdoor into this crazy idea that God and the devil are aliens. Maybe
some extra dimensional, some alien.
Yeah, sort of. And all of the stuff following from that.
I mean, Jesus is explicitly an alien, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
or of extraterrestrial ancestry.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck that means in the context of the rest of this movie.
Exactly. So long
I
as
heard somebody say the word alien at some point. I latched onto that.
Yeah, well,
I heard Jesus.
I don't actually remember if they said alien, but which of course brings up the God told me to. Which is a trip.
Larry Cohen is his own particular flavor of interesting. We need to tackle one of these days. But, yeah.
But this was also illuminating, having been a grad student and been through situations not totally dissimilar to this.
We have a project. No, I'm not telling you what it is until you're there.
Yeah. Something like that. But yeah, no, I really love this movie for ridiculous reasons. But I do think it's effective at doing something. I'm not sure if it's what it wanted to do, but it definitely gets at the audience.
Of all of the John Carpenter movies that were subsequently reassessed, this is probably the one that was subject to the most radical reassessment. I just took a look during the break just to confirm that my memory was correct, and it was. This managed to receive both a turkey rating from the venerable Video Movie Guide, as well as a bomb, which was the lowest rating that they had, from the venerable Leonard Maltin Movie Guide, which were sort of primary sources for film information outside of actual newspaper reviews or that sort of thing, back during the VHS rental era. This was a movie, it cannot be stressed enough how disastrous this was when it was released, coming on the heels of the slightly iffy reception to Big Trouble in Little China, which was, at that point, probably Carpenter's most sheerly fun movie. With the possible exception of The Thing, this was Carpenter's most sheerly downbeat movie. But
it's just ahead of its time.
It's ahead of its time, absolutely.
It's like there are so many movies with this kind of plot at this point.
No. Having buried the lead in that last statement, I absolutely fucking adore this movie. If The Thing weren't a thing, this would be my favorite Carpenter movie. Carpenter had famously once referred to Halloween as being his Dario Argento film, not least for the influence in the score there. But if that was his Argento film in the Giallo sense, this was absolutely his Lucio Fulci movie, with all of the insects that tends to imply. Insects and crawly things and worms and bugs and gross fluids and that sort of thing. It has as with the opening credit sequence, it has an incredibly long kind of slow burn build-up, but the sheer portent that it carries through is deeply unusual. Not just by the standards, by current standards, but by the standards of the time as well. This is such an odd movie to exist at all, to say nothing of being a product of frickin' 1987. Otherwise, an absolutely extraordinary movie for year for movies in its own right.
Okay, I'm going to interject there because you've been going on for a while.
Yes.
But I don't know how, because I had something to say, and god damn it. I had something to respond to that you were saying. What the fuck was it? Do either of you have anything to...
I had something going back to what Matt said about having been in situations like this. I mean, I love the setup of all these grad students going there to, investigate some phenomena. What I really liked was, so you have all these students in this place. They're kind of working and sleeping in shifts on cots. There's Chinese food and pizza everywhere. No one really knows what they're doing. There's random people showing up. It reminded me of an indie film shoot. That's what I kind of latched onto. Right, but like that.
Oh, but it felt like that in
instead of painting sets, you're carbon dating stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't really know what's happening a lot of the time, and you're meeting new people who you'll never see again. But hopefully you live through that experience instead of being possessed.
Then Alice Cooper shows up. And...
I'm going to go out and say this is a movie that absolutely needs multiple viewings to fully appreciate. More so almost than any other Carpenter film.
That's what I thought was kind of one of its drawbacks, was it had amazing ideas in it. Very ahead of its time. Love that aspect of it. Want to talk more about it. But a lot of the awful stuff that happens to people is kind of easily avoidable.
Don't go outside, you mean?
Don't bump
go
into
outside.
that.
Yeah, don't be alone in the parking lot.
Thing.
When there's a homeless person running at you with scissors, you move out of the way. And then you don't just stand there going, of course, you get stabbed to death.
And this is only for the YouTube viewers. Don't do this when something's on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do not hold your mouth agape and look skyward.
Yeah, I have a story along those lines too. But chemists always have stories about stuff like that. I mean, a lot of this does ring true. The patent absurdity of the situation they're in. It feels also like a horror RPG game, because I mean, it's an army of homeless people outside. And they make one attempt to get out, and it is a real false start when you just look. You can see over the chain link fence over there. If you get just like 6 feet further that direction, you could probably outpace them and get the hell away.
No, he looks backwards and forwards, and backwards and forwards, and backwards, and then you're out of time.
Yeah.
Do you know what John Carpenter said when asked why all the homeless people were gravitating toward the devil?
Uh-oh, why is that?
Because they didn't have souls.
Oh, okay.
I haven't parsed that yet.
That's...
I don't think you're supposed to parse it that way. I think you're supposed to take it as these were demons on Earth disguised as homeless people, not that homeless people don't have souls.
Okay, well,
I was assuming it was almost like radiation from the building that had infected everybody around. That's kind of...
That's kind of what I'm with Shane on this one. I'm going to
create your own version.
I'm going to stick to the primary source and let other interpretations, including the directors, just kind of act as the input of interested third parties.
I assumed it was direct influence from what was in the building. It wasn't because they were just soulless homeless people.
In my previous viewings, I assumed that it they don't say that they're all schizophrenic, but they do mention schizophrenia multiple times in the film. And I think what we're supposed to take from that is that the devil like tuned into their schizophrenia in order to draw them to the building. I had never heard the quote about no souls before. So.
No, I had not heard that before either.
He might have been referring to people with mental health issues.
Yeah, there was a different understanding of it back then, I guess. I mean,
again,
lack of a soul.
not having any context to parse that, I am going to ignore that reality and substitute my own. My first experience of this film was through a TV commercial cut down of its trailer back in good old 1987. I had been generally aware of Carpenter for quite a while, of course. One of my strangest memories of my brief time living in Vermont back in 1983 and 1984 was the fact that for some unfathomable reason there was a The Thing poster in my elementary school's library.
Wow.
To say nothing of being dimly aware of Halloween, going back to the point where I was basically coherent as a human being. This trailer stuck with me. And having seen the trailer subsequently, it's like, oh my god, it's the entire goddamn movie from beginning to end.
I didn't watch the trailer.
No, the trailer is it is a collection of the most memorable images of the movie, which, granted, are kind of spread out from, pretty equally from beginning to end. But the trailer feels like a synopsis of the picture, but at the same time, seeing it at the, age of frickin' 11, all of those images stuck with me for years and years afterwards, and I was sort of afraid of the movie for a very long while until I finally ended up catching it on VHS in college. And at the time, was reasonably impressed with it, especially given its very, very bottom-of-the-barrel reputation up to that point.
Okay, Jenner, speed it up.
Okay, no, that's kind of the end of that particular thought. I have another subject to diverge on, but in the meantime, no, later.
I would like to hear more from those who had not seen the film and their reactions to it. That's one of the things I like about this show, is getting those first not just the first reactions, but general overall. I'd like to hear more. Shane, you hadn't seen it, right?
I had not seen it, and like I said, I didn't know what to expect, and I did find it very confusing at first. I mean, I agree that it does reward a second. I think it would reward a second viewing, because
I can vouch.
Yeah, I mean, I liked a lot of the setup, and then it kind of became, I guess, it's sort of a zombie movie. It also has one of those things where, because it's this super powerful evil, just random scary things can happen that don't necessarily need to be consistent. Like, the black guy just cuts his own throat for no reason, and then he's
he cuts his own throat to prevent himself from getting taken over, but it doesn't succeed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, because it seemed like he'd already been taken over by that point.
He was fighting it off.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the dude outside who got stabbed by scissors becoming bugs, just kind of collapsing. I mean, that was kind of
I thought the bugs
effect.
ate him.
Yeah, that was just a suit full of bugs.
Yeah, I really like that. That was one of the things. That's one of the things that turned up that you cut into from the commercial break. And you're like, what am I watching? How did that happen? And then you never find out.
I love the idea of finding math where you should not have, or like finding math before it had been invented.
We hadn't invented differential equations 2,000 years ago.
I gotta say, I'm wondering how they back translated formula for differential calculus out of a language that didn't have the numerology in order to express it. But that's nitpicking.
Yeah, where did all
stuff we
like
can't
calculus
understand?
Yeah, because like half of like differential equation notation is Greek.
Right.
So where do they get those Greek symbols for? How do they translate that into Greek?
Well, I mean, obviously it doesn't have to be Greek, but I mean, how do you figure out you're looking at differential calculus when all of the symbology is different and it was built in an entirely different culture? That is spectacular translation, is what that is.
Well,
Well.
all of these people appear to have been exceedingly talented at their particular fields.
That was another cool thing, that these were all smart people trying their
Mhm.
best, doing the smart thing for the most. There wasn't. I mean, you wander into the parking lot every now and then, and you get stabbed by scissors or whatever. But mostly, these are like people with their head on straight. And
There are some unexpected, unforced errors in this. At the same time, it's again
lady, you
very.
you don't gotta jump on the lady. You can just shove her really hard.
Yeah.
Why?
eh,
Why jump?
They needed a sacrifice, and it should be pointed out that a large amount of the tension that resides in this film is the last 20 minutes of the film, in which two different characters are hiding in closets watching things happen.
Yeah.
Between Pleasance and
Dennis Dunn just kind of
Dennis Dunn,
narrating to everybody else what's happening.
And providing some of the strangest comic relief any horror movie has ever had, much less just of its era. Like you could almost pass for Asian.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was odd.
An amusingly prickly performance in a completely different way from Pleasance's.
There's an academic argument that has been made that this film is actually about the AIDS epidemic at the time, and that his character in particular, while in the closet being dominated by two women that he's terrified of.
There is that line about homosexual panic.
Exactly.
Okay.
There's that,
Yeah.
and he makes
Still feels like a little bit of a reach overall.
I liked it. I thought it was fun.
Because that's a fun idea.
I'll be honest. I got a similar feeling while watching the movie. I was like, this dude might be closeted.
that I can get.
Making that joke.
Approaching the whole thing, that and of course the running gag of Susan, radiologist, glasses. Applying that lens to the whole film feels like a little bit of a reach. But if I recall correctly, Carpenter mostly said that on the heels of the very expensive and very trying experience of Big Trouble in Little China, he mostly just wanted to do something that was fun to make, and fast and fast and cheap and really, really dark. So I think they ended up doing this for something like $13 million. The bit that I was going to diverge back onto, and this circles back on stuff from the first half as well, is kind of encapsulated in the screenplay credit to Martin Quatermass. Quatermass, of course, being the most enduring creation of one Nigel Neal, probably the best goddamn writer ever to have emerged from British science fiction television, and of whom Carpenter was a great fan. To the point where he had actually hired him on himself as the original screenwriter of Halloween 3, but Neil, seeing the eventual product, ended up taking his name off of the thing. So because he thought it was too gory and nasty, and consequently, Neil basically found himself with a very famous fan that he didn't particularly want to have. Going back to the reason why I like Ghost of Mars, because it gave John Carpenter finally a chance to do a remake of Quatermass in the Pit on Mars. That was the extent of that divergence.
Okay. Okay. big build up.
Essentially, this whole thing was approached as Carpenter kind of leaning into his strengths, like weird horror, weirdly intellectual horror, and an opportunity to make an homage to his favorite science fiction / horror writer who didn't particularly appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, somewhat sort of building off of that, there is... I'm not going to get into all the other different podcasts I listen to, but this film in particular has been used as an example of an excellent film which is ruined by a particular moment. And I am curious if any of you would guess what that moment is. That it was
Avowed
taking
sexist?
itself seriously. What's that?
Avowed sexist?
No.
Nope.
Okay, let me think.
I'm thinking too. Well, is there a particular
It's near
group?
the end, I'll say that.
Near the end.
No, it's straight up. The film was doing a great time. It was doing a good job taking itself seriously, moving forward with the story, and then just became clown shoes at one moment, according to this one reviewer that I've listened to, and he brings it up repeatedly.
What is it? I have no idea.
Do tell.
For him, he says it's the devil's paw. That when they go to
because they reused like darkness.
I mean, everyone here thought
Legends.
Tim Curry was coming out of there, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course,
traditional devil.
Like a devil's paw.
What's wrong with that?
I mean, you could barely
in his view,
it
was supposed to be this, in his words, not mine, Lovecraftian horror coming out, and it's going to be this humanoid, ridiculous cartoon devil.
I thought it was literally the devil. I mean, it seemed like
which is what I thought we were sold on. That's why I was very.
It is the devil.
Always kind of. This is taking issue with someone you listen to and have no dialogue with. So it's
If Legend had been more successful, back in the 80s, I probably would have paid real money for this to turn out to be a backdoor sequel to it.
to Legend, that would have been interesting.
Yeah. No, if they had pulled it out and it was Tim Curry's darkness in all of his, red big damn horned glory, that would have been just really okay.
I've just happen. I've got a random question or a random thing. Did anybody else watch this on Criterion Channel?
Yeah.
No.
Did you skip around?
Did you watch it with the subtitles on?
They were.
There are a couple
subtitles
of
are offset.
Not that. Did you notice that Donald Pleasance's character in the subtitles?
Oh, it's called Loomis.
It was called Loomis at one point.
Yeah, Father Loomis.
It was like Loomis groans or something like that in one of the subtitles.
I was seeing it in the Scream Factory UHD disc, which is freaking gorgeous, by the way. They didn't do that. There were a couple of odd errors that completely changed the meanings of the lines that they were conveying, including mostly by Donald Pleasance, such as the new life got mislisted as something else, which completely changed the meaning of that line.
Well, for me, it was the offset of the subtitles, because the subtitles would come up about a full 3 to 4 seconds.
Yeah, that happened for me too.
So at one point, it's this very tense moment with Susan and the dude who looks like Crew, and
Susan.
Yeah, when they're
the radiologist.
The
glasses.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Where they're looking at each other, and then it says neck snapping.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, I guess I know what's gonna happen. It's like instant spoilers.
Oops.
It broke the tension and her neck.
What did you guys think of Nate referred to as, I forget what you called him, mustache guy, the very bland lead?
You mean AJ Simon from Simon and Simon?
Not Simon, but the other Simon. I actually really liked him.
Also wearing the best John Carpenter mustache I have ever seen.
That is a walrus mustache. That is, yeah.
I mean, maybe then it was fashionable. It made him seem. I don't know how old. I guess they're grad students. It made him seem much older than he was supposed to be, I guess.
Even for grad students, all of these actors were much older than the characters that they were playing.
By the end of the movie, I was like, he was the main character, I think. Like, trying to think back to the movie, who the protagonist would be.
I actually, despite a couple of early, to borrow the Lisa Blunt characters, miscues, I actually thought he was a fairly interesting character and performance, not least for, kind of the moment of revelation. It's like somebody has finally shown up to tell us, I think it's time we stand up for who we are, and then all hell breaks loose. I thought it was a fairly charismatic performance, obviously in a movie that did not lend itself to a more effective film career, just because of the complete, and I can't emphasize this enough, disaster that it was upon its original release. I think the only reason They Live got released at all was because they had already filmed it by the time that this hit the theaters.
I found the character to be bland. I didn't really care one way or the other.
I think he was supposed to be bland. I mean, the habit of putting these completely cipher characters in the audience is traditionally supposed to identify with, but honestly have always just been kind of a vacuum.
My theory of this movie's construction, or the way I like to look at it, which is probably completely not true, but whatever, is that the protagonist of the film was the Sentinel, who died at the beginning. His movie ended where this movie begins, and these are all the schmucks who are left behind to clean up the fucking mess.
Well,
And
you're
they
not
don't-
wrong
Pat
on
Labor.
you're not that wrong on that front, I don't think.
I don't think this movie had a protagonist. I would not say. I mean, I guess he's the male lead, but he's not like the reason people are going to the movie. At that point, they're probably going because of Donald Pleasance.
I mean, I will allow a lot of the characters, I think, become more interesting on repeat viewings because, make no mistake, I have seen this movie more than a dozen times. The nuances kind of come out on repeat viewings, but again, I can see finding a lot of the characters a little on the bland side, especially on initial viewing.
Yeah.
You know, the simultaneous, the almost 50-50 mix of actual bravery and spinelessness of the Pleasance character really comes out on repeat viewings. The surprising uselessness of Victor Wong's character, as interesting as he is, because he is probably the most interesting person in the movie.
He was my favorite.
Kind of comes out on repeat viewings. I
fucking love seeing him playing a normal role, a normal person,
Yeah.
and not like the kooky guy. Yeah.
You know, I mean, if anything, he's probably more of a lead even than Donald Pleasance is. But he, aside from kind of engineering the situation in the first place, he has no particular effect on the actual outcome of things. He's off in another room somewhere.
Hey, man, he's a manager.
He monologues a lot. He philosophizes a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Shane.
I wanted to mention the score really quickly. Like during the opening credits, I was thinking this score is awesome, and then that score runs the entire movie.
Yes,
it never seems to stop. And I had it in my head for like an hour and a half after the movie.
It has that lingering throb.
It just keeps on going. It never seems to change.
And if you watch the movie in any proximity either to The Thing or Fright Night, weirdly enough, they will all run together in your mind and you will not be able to get rid of any of them. I can vouch for this. I've seen both of those in the last week.
All right. Does anybody have any final thoughts on this movie?
I mean, I think I guess I need to see it again. I don't know if I want to.
I don't feel that we
soon.
talked about the movie very much. A lot of tangential stuff.
The movie itself, it rises above the limitations of some of its effects. I think the squirt gun attack of all the demons is frankly kind of hilarious.
Yeah, that was.
And the fact it's
cheesy.
Basically snoogieing in someone else's mouth.
At the same time, this movie has some of the most utterly haunting, terrifying images that I think I've ever seen in any movie, particularly the one at the climax, which, if anybody's going to go ahead and see this, I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
Just that one bit was the bit that really always stuck with me from the trailer, but also, the fluid, going, I assume, in reversed film into the eyes and mouth of, the poor lady who bumped into whatever it was that she bumped into that marked her. This is a movie that got under my skin early and stayed there and, continues to stay there. I fucking love this movie. I cannot recommend it highly enough to the adventurous and patient.
I thought it was all right. That's going to do it for us here on What's on the Pile. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at What's on the Pile. You can find us on YouTube under the Punch Bunny YouTube channel, or you can visit our website, whatsonthepile.com. Thanks to our 17 viewers.
Ooh, yeah.
We appreciate you.
Thanks for hanging out.